Um, Thanks to everybody for being on this call, for joining us today. It's so wonderful to see so many of your faces. Uh, we have small business owners and organizations from all across the first district on here today on this call, and we're so grateful that you've taken the time out of your very busy schedules to meet with us and to help us understand how we can best partner and support St. Louis small businesses. I know that over the last, year has been extremely difficult for small businesses locally and all over the country, actually, especially in our Black and Brown owned businesses for women. Uh, and We want to do what we can to help. We see you. The COVID-19 pandemic forced us to change the way that we work, we dine, we shop in order to keep ourselves and our community safe. I know many of you faced tough decisions and at times felt unsure about what the future will hold for you and for your businesses, for your families. I know you all have stories, and today I'm here. I'm here because I want to hear those stories. I bring my own story, my own lived experiences with me every single day to Congress. And it's those stories that shape so much of how I see the world. I wanted to have this meeting today so that I can begin to understand, begin to know your struggles, so that I can best advocate for your interests in Congress. Um, Small businesses are an essential part of our community, providing jobs, creating community wealth, breathing life into the culture of St. Louis. Small businesses, you are the backbone of our district's economy, and I'm committed to ensuring that you all have the support you need to continue to help our communities thrive. I'm proud that earlier this year we were able to pass the American Rescue Plan and begin providing relief to the millions of people who have been impacted by the pandemic. That plan includes more than $28 billion in grants for restaurants and $15 billion in economic disaster loans. We also expanded eligibility for the PPP, for the PPP well, we say paycheck protection program so that more small businesses have access to the resources they desperately need. This plan is a first step. We understand it's a first step. We understand it was not perfect, but it was a step in helping our small businesses and our country heal. But as we come out of this pandemic, hopefully very, very soon, we must, and hopefully we'll stay out of it. We must ensure that that our new economy is centered around equity, centered around equality and justice. The American Jobs Plan proposed by President Biden would invest 100 billion with a B $100 billion in workforce development programs targeted at underserved communities, and would ensure that women and Black, Brown, and Indigenous communities, business owners, have the resources and training. Um, Communities have the resources and training to access the new jobs that will be created in clean energy and in infrastructure. This is just a small part of the work that we're doing in Congress to help our small businesses recover from this pandemic and ensure our workers have good paying jobs. This pandemic has been hard for every single person, but I know it has been especially difficult for our small business owners. Some of you may have had to lay off employees or even your entire staff. We have heard those stories. Some of you may have had to take out loans or mortgage on your homes just to stay afloat. Some of you may have had to forego a paycheck to save your business. I'm hoping you will share some of these experiences with me today. I want to hear what those struggles have been and how my office can best help, how we can best support you in your business. I know that this year has been hard, but please remember this. I know you've heard it before, at least many of you have, that your Congresswoman loves you and I have your back. The team has your back. It's not just me. I don't do this alone. This team has your back. Our phone lines are open for you to call. When you call, if it's within business hours, you are going to get a live voice, and we're going to do what we can to best help you. And so we have other town halls that's open where we talk about policy, where we talk about how I feel about certain things and what I want to see happen. What are my goals for this and that? And that's for that set aside for those meetings. But this particular meeting, we want to have, and this is not a one-off. This particular meeting is a meeting that we want to have every couple of months or every quarter to check in with our small businesses, to see what's going on and to see how we can take your stories, your experiences, and put that into, first of all, help meet your needs, but then also use that to inform legislation. And because I went to Congress to make sure that the people of St. Louis, that our voices are heard. So I need you to tell me. I won't know if you don't tell me. I'm not sitting with your accountant every day. I'm not at your business. I have no clue if you don't tell us. So as much information as you would feel comfortable sharing, I only share what you feel comfortable sharing, but let us know so that I can take that. I'm going to sit here and I'm going to write notes. You talk to us about what is going on, and we will do our best to see how we can help with resources or whatever it is. Do our best to try to help. But even if I can't help right now, we may be able to use what you just said to help build legislation or something that can help to change what's happening. So it's not just me on this call. I have our team on the call. My chief of staff, Abbas Alawiyah, is on the call, and our district office is on the call. We have so many people on the call that are ready to assist. They'll be taking notes as well, trying to figure out what we can do with the resources we have and with the power of our office to help you. But then also with that, we have someone else on the call, and I'm going to turn it back to Miranda. This person has all the info.
Thank you, Congresswoman. I'm going to turn it right over to Amy McLaurin. Amy is the Executive Director of Advocacy for the Heartland Credit Union Association. Amy, you're unmuted.
All right. Well, thank you all for your time. And just to give you a perspective, if you're not familiar with credit unions, that we are not-for-profit financial cooperatives. We're owned by our members. We're consumer-focused and consumer-driven. And so at the beginning of this pandemic, obviously our focus was making sure that we were there to help our members, which are the consumers who use credit unions. We've been working to help consumers get the help they need. And in particular with the Paycheck Protection Program, as that's been rolling out, I like to say that they were building the plane as they were flying it, and we were right there with them to try to make sure that we got that information disseminated out to folks in order to navigate it, which I understand was very, very challenging at times and continues to be a bit of a challenge. One of the latest quirks we have is that as of Wednesday, we did hear from the SBA that the funding has run out. Now, there is a caveat to this. The relief bill at the end of 2020 also included $30 billion that was set aside for community lenders. As of yesterday, there was still $8 billion plus remaining for PPP loans originating from those participating community financial institutions. Now you may be going, what the heck are those? So what are community financial institutions? They include community development financial institutions, also called CDFIs, certified development companies, CDCs, SBA microlenders, and minority depository institutions, MDIs. These funds are all available until May 31st or when the remaining funds are exhausted. And I would say that, obviously this is probably moving very quickly. But it's also important to note that not all community financial institutions do business loans, because different areas of expertise is required in order to do business lending, different things, requirements by law in order to make sure that everything operates as it should. So there is a resource for you to find eligible lenders that are participating in the PPP, and that's on the SBA website, www.sba.gov. On the main page there, they have hyperlinks to each one of these types of lenders. And so then you're able to download a list and then do a search within there, the respective state, the city, and find something that fits. If that is something that you think might be an option, or if you already know your financial institution is a CDFI or an MDI and does business lending and you've been working with them, that's another option to go directly to them. Want to make sure that you're also aware, however, and I know that Congresswoman Bush just highlighted that there are different programs available beyond the Paycheck Protection Program. May or may not be a perfect fit, but it's something that, to make sure that you exhaust and look at those options as well. Those are also available at the SBA website. Now they're under specific, they're under the specific COVID-19 relief options. That includes the economic injury disaster loan that is focused on small businesses and nonprofits. We have the restaurant revitalization fund, obviously for restaurants, and the shuttered venues grant for different venues, performance venues, things of that nature. So those are some different entities that are another option for you within the SBA. But there's also options outside of the SBA, because we know that those funds, there's a lot of challenges. You can still go to your financial institution, and credit unions are still working very much so within the consumers that they're able to serve in order to try to make sure that our small business owners, the backbone of our economy, have funds that they need. So many did provide throughout this entire process. Many credit unions provide SBA loans, or they did regular business loans to members, and they're going to continue to do so even after this Paycheck Protection Program funds have run out. So you do have to keep a few things in mind, just in case you're not familiar with credit unions. In order to find the right credit union for your needs, you have to know that by law, credit unions are limited in serving people who live or qualify for that credit union's field of membership. That means that, for example, if a credit union has a community-based field of membership, they might be able to serve people who live or work in St. Louis City or St. Louis County. Or if they have an employer-based field of membership, work for a specific company or an industry. So that is just one thing, a caveat there that I want to make sure that that's an important thing. You have to make sure that you qualify for field of membership, based upon whether it's community or employer or something else, or an organization, perhaps. And then also to make sure that they offer the services that you're looking for, because not every financial institution offers the business loans. Now, I just want to make sure there's a reason for that. There's been limitations over the years legislatively that limit sometimes how much business lending credit unions can do. So that is why you have some credit unions that do not do business lending, but others that do. One website you could go to, however, to find out first if you are eligible to join a credit union is yourmoneyfurther.com. That's a good starting point for you. It's capitalized. I don't think it has to be, but capital Y, capital money, capital further.com, all together. And so that's one place where you can get started to see and get that ball rolling with finding the perfect credit union for you and your small business that is able to help you out in the way that you need. Just in case you're wondering what the heck did credit unions do during all of this, just wanted to highlight real quickly that oftentimes we were able to step in and we were serving folks that otherwise were not helped by their previous financial institution, didn't know where to go. And we oftentimes stepped in with that smaller loan amount, which is what many of you needed to just keep going. And that's something that we consistently do as an industry, is provide those smaller dollar loans. So in the initial rollout, we saw about 3,500 PPP loans from credit unions, about 115 million. And keep in mind, some of these credit unions had not done business loans before, but they saw the need, they had the call from folks and dove in. The average loan size for credit unions in Missouri was $32,000. So that just gives you a good grasp of what we were filling in. Whereas other financial institutions, the average was close to $100,000. So obviously, whatever the size, whatever the need, we were trying to make sure that you got the funds that you needed. And that's on top of loan deferments, skip-a-pays, and different things consumer-wise. So just want to give you perspective of where we've been, where we're still going, and obviously, with the Paycheck Protection Program, there are still options available to you. And I myself, along with the Congresswoman and her team, I'm looking forward to hearing the challenges that you're facing so that I can better talk with my member credit unions and see what ways we might be able to continue to reach out and do so in the best way. So I really appreciate this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Amy. Congresswoman?
Yeah, thank you, Amy, for that information. And I would like for everyone to know Amy has been very helpful with us as we've been just trying to, get introduced with people that with people in the with the credit loan with just that industry period, and making sure that we uh, build those relationships. One thing that we had planned to do before the money ran out was to, we were working to put together like a sort of a workshop where any small business within the district could, we would have a bunch of credit unions represented, and anyone that had a small business that had a question about PPP, needed to get, help with the application process, or just was having issues, would be able to walk in and sit down with one of those credit unions. Didn't have to be a member beforehand. Just show up and talk with them and get help, become a member and get help with that credit union, because we know that that was a barrier before, just having the relationships with those type of institutions. And but we're in a different situation right now, but we will still see what we can do to, because like she said, there are still other programs out there. So I want you all to know that, and know that Amy is here to definitely be a resource. I see some other folks on here that are resources, that may be resources as well. And so if you have something you need to ask, we let's as far as that is concerned, also remember that you can speak with uh, we'll make sure that that resource, that you have the information to be able to reach out to Amy's office after this as well. This is the listening session, and just like Amy said, tell us what's going on so that we can go and do the other work. And so I would like for everybody to kind of keep that focus for this particular meeting. I know all kinds of other things are happening in our worlds, but so we can get the most out of this so that we can go and do our work as it relates to your businesses. Tell us what's going on where you are.
Thank you so much, Congresswoman. And with that, we are going to open the meeting up to you to tell your story. We'd love to hear how you're affected, what you may be thinking, what you need. If you put your name in the chat, I will call on you as your name is in the chat. Also, if you raise your hand, we know we may not get to everyone. We have about 45 minutes in total for this call. So if you could try to make sure your remarks are a minute or 2 minutes so that we can get to as many different remarks as possible, we really appreciate it. So with that, we're going to turn over. The first person that I have is Barbara Mcgee. Barbara Mcgee, would you like to unmute yourself and speak, please?
Yes. Hi. Thank you, Miranda. Hi. First, I want to congratulate Congresswoman Bush on her monumental win. And for the first time, you said that you love us and you have our back. The first time in a long time, I actually believe that. So thank you for all that you're doing. Community response, we have provided transitional housing services for foster youth for over 20 years, over 17 years. We've transitioned into providing home ownership for low to moderate income families in St. Louis Promise Zone communities, with a focus on generational renters and also addressing neighborhood blight, abandoned and vacant properties. So recently, a friend forwarded some information from your office about a funding opportunity. I wasn't able to meet the deadline, and part of the area was housing, which is a part that is near and dear to me. So there are going to be additional opportunities to address businesses like mine. We lost the contract with the Missouri Department of Social Services Children's Division. Not really clear why we lost that contract, because we helped over 400 young adults transition from foster care, but we did, and we're going to rebid. But so right now we're just looking for as many funding opportunities as possible, and wondering if your office will have another request for proposal like you put out maybe a month ago.
Yeah.
And thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for asking that question, and thank you for your work. Thank you for your work. That type of work really changes lives. So yeah, the community funding projects that we sent that information out very recently. We received the information in and it was just a small amount of time to be able to to turn everything around and to submit it to appropriations, to the appropriations committee. So it was not it wasn't the fault of anyone that it was just a short time frame. As soon as we were notified, we got the information out, but it was already such a small time window. So we're very sorry for all of those that could have turned in requests for to get funding, but next year, So next year, we believe that this will be coming back around, and so there will be another opportunity for everyone next year, around this time next year. So if you have ideas, if you have needs, get that ready. But in the meantime, there may also be other opportunities for funding. I'm gonna Abbas, would you address that at all? I know our person that handles a lot of that is not able to be on the call today, but can you give a better idea?
Yes. So thank you so much for that, Congresswoman. Hey, everyone. My name is Abbas. It's a pleasure to be on with you all. What the Congresswoman was speaking to now, and what was just mentioned is this community funding project, which is earmarks, which have been gone. Congress has not been doing for a very long time, have been brought back, and nonprofit organizations as well as um, uh, local governments um, will be or we're eligible to apply and receive funding. And the Congresswoman did an incredible job making sure that we got out the information as quickly as possible. It was a very short time that we had. A lot of other offices got 15 to 20 requests, and we ended up getting 97 requests. And it's very competitive. We can submit 10 projects, so that's something that we'll definitely look forward to working with you all. If you are aware of, if you yourself are running a nonprofit or are aware of programs that would be helpful to fund, we're eager to be in conversation around that. Aside from that, we can be helpful in one of a few ways. As far as the small businesses, as far as the Small Business Administration goes, anything that you are working with through them, we have congressional liaisons that we work very closely with. We would be very eager to assist you with navigating that bureaucracy and making sure to leverage the power of the Congresswoman's office in service of you getting your needs met. I'll also mention that anything related to federal contracts. If you are applying for a contract with the federal government across any one of the agencies that are operating in St. Louis, we would be very eager to hear from you and to in certain situations offer letters of support if there are other ways we can support. And so across the board, whether that's through the Department of Transportation or any others that may be relevant to your work, when those opportunities for federal contracts come up, definitely reach out to our office, and we'll be eager to be a resource for you and to support you through that.
Yeah, and to add to that, we are also looking to bring some resources to St. Louis to help with capacity building, because we do recognize that a lot of small businesses are looking to know, how do we apply? Do we have all the regulations, and have we registered for all of the right places for us to be able to get some of those contracts? And so we were talking with the EPA Region 7 director over the last week, and he is really excited to come to St. Louis and to even do a workshop for small businesses around making sure that we have the capacity to be able to work with these different grants and opportunities that are coming. So look forward to that information coming out. And now that you have registered with us, we'll be able to shoot that information to you when those things are offered, as well as signing up for our newsletter, because we'll make sure that we're getting you the information as we're getting the information. Just a quick aside, I'm going to call on a few more names. Just know again that we are running short on time. So we want to hear your story. Some people are putting questions as well in the chat, so we may not get to answer all the questions, but we will record the questions and try to circle back to you. Also, when you say who you are, say the business that you're representing too, so we know what businesses are represented today. So next I want to go to Rodney Robinson, and then after that, Christine Ingracia.
Yes. Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
I want to thank you all for having this forum, and just want to absolutely thank you for the website and all the information that you guys provide us on the website. It's been a big help. My first question was on the PPP. As they rolled out the PPP, and as we know, they were, as you said, flying the plane as they fixed on it. Initially, the guidelines said that they would use your net income to calculate what you qualified for. My business is ECSS, it's Engineering Construction Support Services. We provide project management, design, and design build services for construction. We applied almost immediately. And as we applied and were approved, the laws changed. And now they're utilizing the gross income to calculate what you actually qualify for. Now, anybody with a business knows that the difference between your gross and your net can be huge, especially if you have expenses that you have to write out for. So my question is the SBA going to reconsider that? Because it's almost like businesses that applied and had all of their paperwork and everything straight up front were penalized for responding, I guess, in a timely fashion. That's my first question. And then the second question, during the first round, there were resources that were available through St. Louis County and a number of other sources that just seem to be easier to talk to and more tangible for us, like the SBA, you're pretty much calling over the phone. My question is St. Louis County going to also offer more resources as far as funding, grant programs, and loan programs to assist us with our recovery and with us getting back up and running?
So, Rodney, those are some pretty specific questions, and I'm not sure that we can answer those questions right now today. But I'm glad you raised those concerns, because those are definitely things that we are hearing. Amy, I don't know if you know anything about what SBA is going to do with the net versus the gross, but those are definitely those are issues we can definitely look into and try to get back to you.
Okay.
Will that work, Rodney?
Awesome.
Amy?
And also wanted to congratulate our congressman as well on her win. And we are so happy, and we are pulling for you as well.
Thank you. Amy, were you saying something?
I was just saying that I would have to look in specifically. I think it's something that you have to constantly be working with the SBA. This is not unusual. It's unfortunate, but there was a lot of things that changed, like from those early days in regards to who had access to the loans, who was allowed to apply for that. And by the time they changed it around the first round, the money was virtually gone. And so there was a lot of frustration and challenges. And I think, again, because they were building it as they were figuring it out, that you unfortunately got kind of caught in that crosshairs of figuring out what was a better calculation. But again, it's worth asking. It's something that I think that the Congresswoman and her staff could specifically be asking, like, is there an opportunity to change this? And it's also something that whenever I'm working as well, to say, is this a consideration to change those calculations? Because it seems as we go along, different things become more clear. And then you realize retroactively, is there some way to address?
And I'm going to go to Christine and then Kelly. But I want to mention, we had a lot of people that sent emails saying they couldn't make it today because they're so short-staffed that they are having a big problem finding employees. And Christine, I think you wanted to speak to that as well.
Thanks so much for the invitation to be here today. This is an incredibly important conversation. Good to see all of you. Yes, the main concern I have is I've been contacted by a number of businesses, probably at least 50 or 60, that are having real difficulty hiring right now, especially our small independent restaurants and bars all over the city of St. Louis. And so I'm just curious what we might be able to work on together, and also how I can be supportive as, boots on the ground to any efforts. I think there's a lot of anecdotal information out there. Everyone wants to say that, people are just drawing unemployment and don't want to go back into the workforce, but I think it's more complicated than that. So yeah, just kind of wanted to get your office's thoughts on that. And then I don't want to take up any extra time, so happy to have a further discussion offline on this.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for the question, Alderwoman. We are hearing a lot. We're hearing a lot of that, the same as you. Restaurants have reached out saying that they need staff. I think, like you said, it's really complicated because we have people who are, it's just really complicated. And even having the fairs, even having the job fairs, I know that some different groups have gotten together and had job fairs to try to do some immediate hiring, and that didn't work. They only had a few show up a couple times, and I think I saw one report of a group having something and no one showed up. And so right now, we've been trying to think of what to do, but the struggles that people are having right now, I think that is just um, the struggles with people that are the workers, and then also the struggles with those who are the business owners. Even as we look at what's happening with what's about to happen for restaurants, coming up. I know that is, we still didn't fix the problem necessarily, because it's still not helping restaurants to get on the way that the formula is set up. It still won't really help some restaurants who already took out PPP loans to be able to stay afloat during this time. So we're still working ourselves to try to figure out the best way to handle this. And I will say, I know that I keep hearing that it's because we got people unemployment through September is the reason why people aren't going back to work. And I will say that I hope that is not the way that we as a community are looking at it, because what we're saying is we gave people $300. It's $300 a week. That on the federal side is what was given. And so I'm just hoping that as a community we're not saying that about people. People are struggling. And the other thing though is we do have, with the American Jobs Plan, money coming. More money is coming right now with the American Rescue Plan. So hopefully in other areas, even though it may not come directly to your business, in other areas, things will be able to open up. And so hopefully that will allow people to be able to start to go back to work, and will cause, and that will kind of move around to other businesses. But right now we're just still trying to rack our brains as well. Abbas, you have something?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much, Christine, for that. It's been such a difficult time, and in conversations we've had with restaurant owners and bar owners, and the Congresswoman did mention that the American Jobs Plan will try to address this. But what part of what the Congresswoman was able to support with the American Rescue Plan is there's $28.6 billion in there that the Congresswoman referenced for the Restaurant Revitalization Fund. That money just started or just opened up this week. As of May 3rd, as of Monday, the Small Business Administration started accepting applications from restaurants to access that money. And the way to access that is sba.gov/restaurants, sba.gov/restaurants. And I mentioned that because it definitely doesn't solve the question that you were asking, Christine, about how do we get the people, or how do we address the staffing shortages, but it's a critical part of making sure that especially those restaurants that are struggling the most. And one of the amazing things about this funding is that during the first 21 days, priority is given to restaurants owned by women, veterans, and socially and economically disadvantaged groups. So especially in this beginning critical period, hopefully some of those resources can help with incentivizing applicants to these restaurant jobs. And so, yes, in the American Jobs Plan that we're working on, that's a big piece of it. But right now, the money that is already available to the community through the American Rescue Plan, we want to make sure that you get that information. So I'll drop that link in the chat as well. Oh, it looks like it's already there. sba.gov/restaurants. And if you know of anyone who has any questions about accessing that, please put them in touch with our office as well.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Boss Kelly. Thank you, Christine. Kelly.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Kelly Moore. I'm the Director of Community Engagement at the International Institute, and I am sitting in for my coworker, Nadia, who is unable to make this wonderful session. I'm taking notes diligently, and I will pass that along. But I have two quick messages. The first message is thank you for your resilience. I can't imagine. I'm not an entrepreneur by heart, so I just have to praise all of you because you guys are awesome. I love local businesses. I try to support you all, and hopefully some of my paycheck goes out to you. So thank you for that. I do just want to say that at the International Institute of St. Louis, we do have funds that are able to help immigrants and refugees open up their businesses. And just before I got on the call today, I was speaking with Nadia, and she alerted me of 4 different businesses that are growing during this time. So all of these resources I think are amazing, and I think they've been helpful. And I'll end with collaboration is key. And so these meetings are essential. There are businesses that have taken multiple risks, and the last 2 years have been risky, especially for restaurants. But we have 4 restaurants on the list that are growing, 2 of them owned by women, 2 of them owned by men. And we have a gentleman who's a world renowned for redoing race cars, resurfacing race cars or something like that. So thank you to all of you. Keep up the great work and keep on putting your businesses in the chat so I can go spend my money at your locations.
That's right.
Awesome. Thank you, Kelly. Kathy Connolly Jones.
Good afternoon, Congressman Cori Bush. I am so excited to be here, and for everyone that is on this call, this is amazing because this is how things get done. Because so many times the Congress, our Congressperson, this one, our Congresswoman, she hears about things in the street, but she doesn't have a concerted direct action. So what I'm going to do is try to keep this short. First of all, my company is the Conley Financial Group. We are an insurance brokerage and financial service firm. And I'd like to tell you about 2 things or ask you about 2 things. One, I'm going to ask you about something that a client of mine came to me about. And that is here in the St. Louis metropolitan area, there seems to be a pervasive behavior amongst a lot of the major companies when it comes to MBE, WBE participation. They will reach out and say that we want 25% or 30%, whatever the participation number is. However, they are not being honest with what they're doing. So they find ways to cut the person out. They find ways to do whatever they can to eliminate them. And then sometimes I've heard from my client that their name was entered into an MBE as an MBE on a contract, but they had never talked to them. So with that, I call this here in St. Louis, it's the sham and the shame of MBE participation and contracting. It's absolutely incredible. And I would definitely want someone, the congressman, a congresswoman, as well as any of those that you know, when you know something like this is going on, if you're being silent, you're being complicit. So we have to all work together to make this work. That's number 1. Number 2.
Ms. Jones, I just want to say, as you're saying that, I see Murray Edwards down there shaking his head. I wanted to acknowledge that because he's done a lot of work with the NGA, and he's definitely co-signing for you. So
that's very important. Thank you. And that's how we get things out. The other thing is you mentioned capacity building. I'd like to let you know, Congresswoman Cori Bush, remember, I'm in the insurance and financial service industry. And of course, every entity needs to have insurance. But when you talk about capacity, you can't, if you don't have a large or a significant size business to do that, you can't do it. So specifically because of the recent election that brought Cori Bush as our Congresswoman, and also with our new mayor, I have gained the confidence, and St. Louis community has gained the confidence of a major national minority-owned full service insurance brokerage firm that will be coming to St. Louis to establish their office here. I am so excited about this because this is something that is beyond the pale. So they are on their way. We've got about 2 months, but they're establishing offices here. And we are also reaching out to our Hispanic brothers and sisters, our Asian American and Pacific Islanders. If you have young people that are thinking about this industry, we are going to also establish a opportunity for them to get training so that they can get into the business. So you have to have capacity for that. All right, so that's one thing I wanted to say. But then the last thing I wanted to say is as each of us look at our businesses as well, government has an entity, has a responsibility that, let's say if it's IT, if it's insurance, this is any of the professional services that we have, I would like to say or know that what they put on the paper is real, that's what allows everybody to grow. Don't just say, okay, minority participation, and then pretend like you can't find anybody. That is absolutely unbelievable to me. So the only way that I feel that that can happen is we have to have a marriage between politics, policy, and business. And to that point, businesses, we have to also support our politicians. That means we have to get out there, we vote for them, we make sure they have the funds that they need so that they're not spending all of their days looking for money, but we have to be there. We reach out and ask them on a regular basis to do things for us. We have to be there so that they know what our issues are. And I commend Congressman Cori Bush on being present and being available. That's probably more than my 2 or 3 minutes, but that's what I had to say.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, Kathy. And no, I did not tell Kathy to say that. I did not do it just me. But I like to say, and thank you for that. I don't know if everybody was on the call before, but we will continue these conversations. This is going to be this is just a staple thing that we'll be doing while I'm in this seat, is every 2 months or maybe every quarter, whatever works for everybody's schedule. This is what we're going to do because we need to have this conversation. We need to, how am I writing legislation if I don't know what you all are going through? So I'm learning as you all are speaking. So the more you feed me, the more I learn. Like this is how I'm going to learn what happens in your businesses. But let me ask this a real quick question, and I know we need to move to the next person. But as far as, so were you saying, Kathy, that when these companies, because they know they need to get to that 25% or whatever it is, so they're reaching out saying, hey, we want you to, are you saying that they have you interview? So it looks like that they're pulling in, they're getting those numbers, but then they don't actually hire? Or are you saying when they hire, that they hire, but then they don't retain? What's the part that, because I do know we have some construction situations going on where there was supposed to be that they're supposed to be at the number and they're not at the number, but they're not being held accountable. So I'm not sure which one you're.
That's exactly correct. It's actually both. And that's what I call the shame and the sham. So okay. They get an individual, they get a company, now not in construction or any of those natures, but they get the company. They come up with what they're supposed to, their percentage. And then they change the number once they get the contract. That minority company has hired individuals to come on to make sure that they can perform on the job. But then the majority company is coming back and kind of saying, well, no, maybe that's a little too much for you. Why don't I just give you this much instead of what you're supposed to have? If we don't have our advocates from a policy standpoint pushing and making them, you really have to make them pay. I hate to be that way, and I mean pay in the sense that you make sure that if one does it, that no one else is ever allowed to do it. Then you have to have that. So that's what I'm saying. They are pretending, or they don't even they pretend like they're going to do business with you, and you've gone through all of the processes, and then they say, oh, well, I'll bring you on, but not at that number. It's like, what? Okay. So if a company, a small organization, small business has staffed up because they know that they're getting this contract. So we're not talking about just in the quoting standpoint or the bid process. We're talking about that majority company has received the contract. They had that entity on there for the minority and then, or the woman. And then the next thing you know, oh no, we're not going to do that. how do they pay them? Or they change the rate, or they do something.
Right.
That's how you put people out of business. And that's
Got
what's
it.
happened.
That's
So
what-
that's, as having been since I'm on the insurance side, I see all of it all the time.
Mr. Edwards, I'm gonna give you 30 seconds because I know you can take this whole
I'm
conversation
sorry.
a little further. Mr. Edwards, 30 seconds.
I'm done.
Thank you, and thank you so much, Miss Kathy. I wanted to hook up with you at some point because we do need to address this. I'm the former chairman of the board of the National Minority Women Business Input Committee for the federal government Civil Rights Department. And in my town, my hometown here, St. Louis, we're at the bottom. We're really doing bad. And it's not just in construction, it's across the board. And I also want to say I have the Washington State African Coalition in town, and they're coming in to try and coordinate with the local Black businesses and the African businesses and other minority groups as well. We know our strength is in our numbers, so we have to come together.
Yeah.
I've worked in the state of Washington for many years to try to straighten it out up there. We've got some action going. We've got over $100 billion in contracts where we've got 23% going to minority businesses. Here in St. Louis, we have a bill on the table. The bill is 70767 through the Board of Aldermen. This bill was passed through my assistants working with Terry and the other aldermen. It passed in November of 2019. And we just had a meeting 2 months ago to notify the people. And we have left money on the table because we're not working together. We have to get that information out through these aldermen, however we can. We're losing at a great deal of opportunities in training our young people and working our businesses because we don't have the proper oversight in the city of St. Louis. Thank you for allowing me to speak.
Yes.
And Congresswoman Cori Bush, I'm one of your biggest supporters. I'm behind the scene, but I try to be one of your biggest supporters when I'm out speaking about you.
Thank you, Murray.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Murray, and I appreciate that, and thank you for your all those years that you gave to community building. So thank you. And I'll say that one thing that has been happening, it happened in Jennings School District, and it is happening now in the St. Louis Public Schools is, this is just a little bit to the point, just a little bit, not totally, but the money has been put in place for to hire high school students to be able to, because not everybody wants to go to college. And so putting back what used to be in the schools, woodworking, wood shop, those types of classes, putting those classes back into the schools, and then also having, where the students can go and get paid, like $15 an hour to go and work at a place, at a business over the summer, getting students ready so that they can come out and, they can do, it's not just at like a tech school, they can get some of that stuff in the other schools. So that's just a piece of it. But we have a lot more work to do.
We have time for 2 more comments. This has gone so quickly, and we have so many wonderful comments in the chat, and we are going to make sure we print those so we have all your comments. So if you want to leave any comments or questions, please feel free to do so in the chat. Carlos Huddleston, I wanted to come to you, and then Kim, you're next. Kim Diamond.
Hi there. Thank you very much, Congressman Bush. I've been a fan of you since your documentary movie.
Thank you.
Great to talk to a superstar.
Oh, goodness.
A lot of the concerns have been put up today. I'm in complete agreement. I'm a little bit hard-headed. I'm in a position where I've always advocated for getting my own prime contracts to avoid some of that situation. I know that's not always an option for everyone, but I would wholly recommend that you, if you're going to take the risk in business, to do that yourselves too, if you can. Take off enough you can chew, but not too much. But if you staff up, and I understand those dynamics, they're very, very difficult. The technical issues that you were talking about training are nationwide. We have 6 offices across the country. I can't find people anywhere. The only people I can find are people that work for somebody else. And that doesn't help the industry at all. We need to spend more time educating our kids, getting them into technical, not just careers, but also into technical work. We don't have any technical people. I know for the last 15, 20 years, most of the emphasis has been on IT. And that's a glamorous position that's really not as high paying as most kids think. The technical trades pay way better. So would advocate that everyone try as much as they can to get kids into, the carpenters union, labor union, that kind of stuff. And also reach out to engineering firms like mine that can try to do something. We run a mentoring program, and I've been talking to hundreds of people. I've been able to hire 3 African-American kids last year, and I'm looking to do 2 more this year that we've kind of trained internally. But I can't do it myself, and we need to get better advocacy across the board to get these fundamental channels of talent available to everyone. That's the hardest thing that we have to do. If everyone has to reinvent the wheel to find stuff, you're just working and not in conjunction with each other. There's so much information here sitting in front of my screen of people that are doing their own individual things that I had no idea. And I don't have time, fortunately, to know everything about everything. So I certainly appreciate this forum quite a bit, actually. And I think if we do it on a regular basis, we can certainly network with each other and learn from each other. So thank you for your time.
Yes, yes. Thank you, Carlos. And make sure if you can that you give your information to our office or put it in the chat so we can, because what we also want to do is just we want to put out more information on what jobs are out there, what's available, make it just, because people do pay attention to our social media, people pay attention, like so many people pay attention to what we're putting out. So if you can give us that information, but we're also working with great minds like Art McCoy and so many others to figure out like how we can put this together, how we can make sure that we're getting this information into the schools. One thing that I started working on a few years ago that I'm planning to get back to once I get a little further in this seat is working with some of our hospital systems to be able to put some fellowships into our middle schools, to get so we're trying to reach out and get some things done earlier for our students so that they're ready when they graduate high school to be able to move forward. So we can't just think all of our children want to do the same thing. We have to prepare them.
I'll just add one thing as well, just because the point about technical assistance programs that you raised, Carlos, is a really important one. I hope you saw that the Congresswoman was hosted the EPA Administrator Michael Regan recently, just a couple of days ago, and a big purpose of that trip was to promote some key provisions of the American Jobs Program that President Biden has proposed that we are supporting and encouraging going even bigger. But a big part of that program is directly supporting small businesses, and it would actually provide $110 billion in financing and technical assistance programs. So it's got a big focus on that technical assistance program piece, and as part of the reason why the Congresswoman is pushing it so strongly. So I wanted to mention that to you, and we'll keep pushing on that front.
Well, Abbas, I've got your number in my phone now. I saw it when you first put it up, so we'll be talking.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
So I don't want to get fired for going over time. So I'm gonna ask that we Kim, Kim, and then I have 2 more people that want to say 10-second questions. So Kim, could you go ahead and drop, because I know you had some really good information you want to share.
Yes, I'm Kim Diamond with the St. Louis Economic Development Partnership, and I really thank everybody for sharing all the information you've shared here, particularly the MBE and WBE struggles in contracting. That's really good for us to know and to be able to help with enforcement on those fronts. But I did put some information in our group chat, and I think we are going to also email that to Congresswoman Bush's office and see if maybe we could get a couple links on your website too, so people can access the programs that we have. We work both in the county and the city, so we don't have some of the jurisdictional restrictions that some of the other institutions might have. And also wanted to make a plug or request with regard to workforce training funding. There is the Family Workforce Centers of America in the city of Wellston. They do a lot of work in training, workforce training programs. Carolyn Seward is the CEO of that organization. And so to the extent that we have the opportunity to bring funds into St. Louis to help support the training in the communities, I know that group has a lot of ideas on how to expand their training programs in satellite offices. And I hope that all the resources can come together and help support that. They've done a great job. So that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Cecilia, 10 seconds. Are you there, Cecilia?
Could you hear me?
Yes, we hear you.
Okay, well, basically, my question regarding the PPP loan, people self-employed, they can get that benefit. They normally use the 1099 to present their taxes. It's something that if you guys can contemplate. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And LaWanda Jones.
So I've unmuted. Good afternoon. This is absolutely amazing and fantastic. And I ditto all of the concerns that have been presented here today. Staff, finding staff, trying to get funding, trying to understand and know all of these opportunities early so that we can be plugged into the right places. But most importantly, I wanted to also share and let everyone know that we can be of service. Congresswoman Bush, you have a lot on your shoulders, and we also want to be of help and make sure that you know that we can come and help where is needed. Especially in terms of the EPA and things that are coming up there and all of the infrastructure, there's a big job ahead of us. And we just want to be a part and know where we can serve and be of most use. So please utilize our engineering services, but most importantly, the other things for the youth, such as the National Society of Black Engineers, and just want to be of service.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Thank both of you for those comments. I'm not sure if Cecilia, if we got your, I hope we're able to take care of what you said.
She put her comment in the chat.
She put it in the chat. Okay, great.
Yes,
And thank you, LaWanda, for that. Yeah, I really appreciate that. As we move forward, as this stuff is coming, as American Jobs Plan and all of that comes our way, and we're able to, do what we can with it. I will definitely be keeping you all in mind as I do that, as we work on that. And then also, what will help us with our next meeting, if for those of you who have ideas, I see Mo Costello put something in, and one thing that Mo said for the next one, can we talk about how small businesses, how tiny businesses, how insurance is health insurance, how the impact of that on small businesses, even like, I'm for Medicare for all, so I don't believe you all should have to pay any of it, but that's for another conversation. Things like that, then that way we can make sure if there is somebody like we have Amy on today, but if there's somebody that would be if the majority of the questions are going to be about something, like so many questions were about SBA, if we know ahead of time that this is what that we have a consensus that a lot of people are reaching out saying that this is what we need questions, we have questions on this, then we can make sure to have somebody on that next call to be able to address a lot of those issues. We knew PPP was a big issue, so we asked Amy to be on today. But anyway, like send us, like if you have stuff that you want to have us talk about, send that information too, because otherwise we're just going to take what we think, and that's not the best way. So send us so that we can best serve you. That's the best way for us to serve you, is you tell us what you need. Okay. And I love you all. Don't forget, your Congresswoman loves you. And send us, if you want me to come, if you want us to come stop by, if I'm in town and I can come and stop by your business, send that information. Say, hey, Cori can come and stop by, and let me know. I want to try to get around as much as I can. So let us know. Okay. Reach out
Thank
to
you
our
all
office.
so much for joining us today. Please stay in touch with us. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Visit us at www.bush.house.gov, or you can call us here at the office at 314-955-9980. Such great things in the chat, and know that we are going to make sure we read every one of those chats and respond as much as we can to those questions. So thank you again for this afternoon. Thank you, Congresswoman Cori Bush, for everything that you do. We really, really appreciate you. So thank you again. You all have a wonderful, wonderful day.